Hi there, I'm David Wills and you're watching TED-IELTS. It's been 2 months since my last video. I've been busy writing another book and so I've had no time to make more YouTube videos. However, now I'm back to work and today I'm going to offer you more helpful IELTS advice. In this lesson, we're going to practice using big numbers. There are 3 parts to this video lesson. First, I'm going to explain how to read big numbers. Next, we can practice saying these aloud. And finally, we're going to look at how to use big numbers in IELTS writing. Okay, let's begin. Here we can see a very, very large number. Do you know how we could pronounce this? I think that by the end of this lesson, you will be able to say this number very easily. But first, let's change this to an easier number. So how can we say this? That's right, it's 428. When there are 3 digits, we take the first number and then say 100. In this case, it is 400. The next 2 numbers can stay as they are. Finally, we add "and" between them. 428. Hopefully most of you knew that already. So let's make this number a little more difficult. How can we say this? There are an extra 3 digits, but it doesn't change the rules of how we figure it out. It's 324,428. You need to think in terms of groups of 3s. Each 3 digits is the same. Say the first number, then 100, then "and", then the last 2 numbers. This is 324, but this is the second group of digits back from the "and", so it is 1,000. 324,000. What about these next numbers? Well, so far we have had 100, 1,000, and so that makes the next 3 digits millions. That means this next part is 820 million. So, altogether, this number is now 820,324,428. If you pay attention to those commas when you're reading numbers, it is actually not so difficult. You just read each part the same, saying 820, then you decide is it 1,000, million, billion, and so on. You can just leave a gap between the numbers. It is 820 million, 324,428. So you notice I paused for a moment between each of those 3 numbers. Now let's look at the different groups of 3. We've had 100, 1,000, million, billion, and then next is trillion. You don't really need to know beyond that in IELTS. That leaves us to ask, what is the big number that we started with? Let's work it out together. It is 34,820,324,428. Wow, what a big number. Fortunately, you won't have to deal with numbers like that in IELTS speaking. However, in the writing test, you may actually come across some really big numbers and you need to know how to use them properly. Let's look briefly at using numbers in IELTS writing, because you may have to deal with big numbers for task 1 of the test. Let's look at this example. It's a bar chart that measures the amount of electricity 10 different countries have produced and used. You can see there are a lot of numbers here. And when you look at the numbers at first, it seems as though they're not so bad. You have these numbers for China, 5,398 and 5,322. However, there is a problem. These are actually billions. So can we say 5,398 billion and 5,322 billion? No, we don't. Because numbers run in groups of 3 and 1,000 billion is actually a trillion. You see, 1,000 thousand is a million, 1,000 million is a billion, 1,000 billion is a trillion. So for that reason, 5,398 billion would be more easily said 5.4 billion, and the other would be 5.3 billion. The final thing that you need to know about big numbers is how to round them up or down. And this is very important for IELTS writing. In the last example, we saw two numbers. They could be written fully like this. They're big numbers, right? Okay, but we can still count them according to those groups of 3 digits: hundreds, thousands, millions, billions, and trillions. When numbers get really big, you don't need to say or write every single digit. You can just make it shorter by rounding up or down to the nearest of those big numbers, like million or billion. This number is near to 400 million, so we can round it up. We would say 5.4 trillion. This next one is much closer to 300 million, so we can say 5.3 trillion. Lastly, we can see how these long form numbers are divided by commas, with 1 comma every 3 digits. On the other hand, these shortened numbers have periods or full stops. I know that this is different in some countries, but in English we need to write it like this. Okay, and one last thing, one final point which I would like to make. Please don't write too many numbers in your IELTS Writing Task 1 answer. This is an essay and it's about your English use. You are not being tested on numbers or maths. As such, you need to keep those numbers to a minimum. Look at my sample answer here. It has used very few numbers, and you can also see that I've employed rounding up and rounding down to avoid using long numbers. Having too many numbers in your essay makes it seem messy and does not show off your English skills, so sometimes it's a good idea to write those numbers out. If you want to have the best chance of success at IELTS writing, you can pick up copies of these 2 books. I wrote them both and I'm very proud of them. I think they will really help you in your next IELTS test. So go to www.TED-IELTS.com/books to order them. That's all for me today. I hope that this video has been useful for you. Don't forget to click like and subscribe if you have enjoyed it. I'll be back soon for another essential IELTS guide. Goodbye.